Good question. And this sentence was being asked many times. Some other students still answer this sentence, ask a question on this sentence. So it's a very good chance for me to explain it. For Confucius, of course, the confidence about the people and the country is the most important. This is based on his idea about he think all the government should treat their people well. And it's the most important foundation of the rule of a country, of the stability of the politics. And when Confucius say these words, this sentence, it doesn't mean that it was in the war time or people suffer hunger. It's not at this occasion. If people suffer hungry, of course, all the country should use their all energy to produce food for people. But now I think the case is that the country is still stability. So the most important thing is all the policy, all the law you made for the country and for the people, the government should obey it at first. So it could get the trust between country and people. This is the most important things. So if you have several money, the most important is to follow all the policy, stay stably, not to change it spontaneously, arbitrarily. Then you still have money. Yes, you could use it to enhance your military force, to enhance your economic policy. But if there should a choice, you should choose to follow all the past laws, not to change it arbitrarily. So confidence means all the political policy, all the law you had made, you had promised to your people. Still, many students ask the same question. But if you still don't understand, you can ask it again. Thanks for your question. He must very careful to do everything, include talking. Why he should be so careful? Because he doesn't want to hurt some others, or because he always wants to keep his promise, no matter what he said. So he will not say the things that he doesn't really understand, or he doesn't, or he cannot do it. So he will speak very carefully. This promise is a person with good virtue. Okay. Yeah, so you had already understand. It's not in the wartime. So you had already understood the point. So we don't need to argue with the war, the military, or the food. Okay. So first, Tong is the founder of the dynasty of Shang dynasty. He's the founder. And Sun is a great ancient leader in Chinese history. So Sun is the king. The king should have a prime minister. Tang is the king. He should have a prime minister. And here, Confucius, what he's talking about is most of the local governments, they don't have a good man. They don't have a good political leader. So people always suffer the pain directly from the government, the politicians. So Confucius suggests that why people always doesn't always not willing to obey the government just because you don't have a good officers. Those officers always hurt the people. So people always fight against with the government. Not easy to be lead, not easy to be guided. They don't obey the government. So the king always complained why the people are so difficult to be treated. Confucius said that it's not their problem, it's your problem, because you didn't choose a good officer to lead them. So the problem, that's your problem. For example, Shun, the great ancient king, he invited Gao Tao. Gao Tao is a very excellent person with virtue, and he became the prime minister. Then he ruled his people very well. Even till today, we understand Shun is a great king just because he has a very good prime minister. He chose good officers to serve his country, to serve his people. So his people will love the country, will not obey the country's policy. The same, Yin is another even more famous politician in ancient China. Actually, Yin helped Tang to conquer the extra dynasty, Xia. And Yin helped Tang to build his dynasty, Shang. Then after Tang passed, Tang's child are not very qualified to be a good king. Yin still helped his son, even his grandson, to rule the country and never take over his political authority. This is not easy things, because when a person who in charge all the countries fail, it's very possible that he just take the king's throne, but he didn't do that. So he's a very great person, and since that time, people living a good life. So the point, people will obey the country's lead or not, follow the country's policy or not. The point is whether you give people good officers. Okay, how to remove bad situation? Who can decide what's, again, the propriety? First, what's propriety? It's a polite attitude when you get along with others. So Confucius emphasized any situation, any relationship, people should treat others good. So a proper attitude, proper behavior, just based on the good heart, they concern others. So it is benevolence, 仁 in Chinese, benevolence. So we have benevolence inside our human nature, and we treat others with benevolence. It means that we care others. So at that point, we will, of course, treat others politely. Proper behavior. So what is so who decide what is with propriety or against the propriety? Who decided? Of course, it's you yourself. The subject of this action, it's just you yourself. Our mind. When we care others, we concern others, then of course we will treat them well, and our behavior must be a very proper attitude. So if you worry about whether your attitude to others are not suitable, if you worry about these kind of things, you just do a reflection. Do I really concern him? Do I really care about her? If I really care him, then of course I will think what kind of word I can say, what kind of things I could do for him. Okay, now you understand? So you are asking what's the difficulty of doing here? Actually, quite the same. It's quite the same. To serve the society is not an easy job. So for Confucian's disciple, they think we should do it carefully. So we don't say something too arbitrary. It must be that in my ability. It must be that honesty. It must be honest. And all the things is what I can do. So talking is very important things to show your good virtue. And it must combine with your ability and your sincerity. So talking, so when Confucian's disciple, they talk to others, not very polite, and they will control themselves, and with good attitude. These are all the same thing in this with this sentence. Okay, not quietly. Not quietly means that intelligence should not be outspoken. It's not talking about myself. It's talking about that when others try to convince me to believe something, and they use some way, keeping talking to me all day long. They sit aside me, keeping talking to me, and they pretend to be very pain, suffer. So try to convince me to believe what they say, and try to use their feeling to influence me. At that moment, this kind of situation, excellent politicians still stand his position, not being influenced by this kind of action, by the people who very close to him, or even they working together all day long, or they are just the person who served the king, who served the officers. They are his employee, served for him, so accompanying with him all day long and keeping talking to him. They always try to influence the politicians' decision about who are you going to point to be the officer. That's always the most important political authority. If a person with political power, all the people around him try to influence him. So these kind of people very close to him in his daily life, so they will have much more chance than any others could influence the politicians. So the people around politicians always will be by other politicians, because other politicians try to influence this king's decision. How to just ask somebody around him to talk to him. So all the people around the king always will get money from other politicians. Then try to convince him to believe this man is good or that man is bad. But these politicians, he will not be influenced. So it means that he has a far-seeing view. He is intelligent. He is a wise person. Okay, now you understand. Thank you. Okay, they are not be forced to live well. They are being educated to be good person. Then they turn to be good people, easily to be ruled by the country. This is the point of this sentence, the meaning of this sentence. Still, so this sentence has been discussed. Okay, so now you understand the point of this meaning. So always people are not easy manage, easy control. Why? Because you treat them better. Now you appoint good officers to lead them, then people will thank for the government. So they will cooperate with you. So it doesn't mean that they will be forced to live well. And they will never be disregarded, never. Okay. So you are concerned the political policy about tax and justice. For Confucius, in this sentence, this is Confucius' discourse, 有弱. In this sentence, he was asked by the king of Du. Then the king thinks he's very poor. He wants more money. But Yoruo said, oh, you just save your people's tax. You take lesser than before. So the king doesn't understand why I'm poor. I don't have enough money, but you want me to lesser the people's tax. There's 2 points. The first point is, in Confucius philosophy, people could live good life, have enough money, have enough food, is definitely the most important things for a country. That's the point. Instead, the king, you eat very much. You have very much money to do the things you want to do. That's not the point. Compare with people's need. People's need is more important than the government's need, than the king's need. This is the first point. The second point is, if you take lesser from them, then they will own more. Then they will work harder. Then the production will be twice or even 3 times, 4 times than before. At that moment, you still can get much more than before. So this is what he's thinking and what he suggests to the king of Du. What he's thinking, I think, is still reasonable and still could be done in today's society, right? Okay, you had to understand. You know question? 钱慧玲。So say, tell us your question.
In one of our witnesses in our history discussed the confidence of patients by in the Shanghai dynasties before becoming less prominent. And describe it as the ethical system do that for minimal. Which I found similar to the way it's described in yourself. So my question here was with regards to this ideology. How does Taoism affect beings and body work? Something because we're being Confucius text, right? So it's all that.
When we say Taoist philosophy, Taoist policy, or Confucius philosophy, Confucius policy, it's not an easy thing. And I could introduce the Taoist philosophy in very short sentence. Actually, Taoist philosophy should be divided into two kinds. First, Taoist religious. Second, Taoist philosophy. And Taoist philosophy, Lao Tzu's Taoist philosophy, we are going to read his text. And Zhuangzi philosophy, and Li's philosophy. These three Taoist philosophers, their philosophy are actually different. What you concern is Wu Wei. What is meaning in Lao's philosophy is non-selfish, not non-actions, just non-selfish. Because Lao still want to rule the country, but you should not be selfish. You should not be selfish. So Lao is a very much political philosopher, but Zhuangzi is not. If Zhuangzi used the word Wu Wei, it really means that he doesn't want to do anything to serve the country. He wants to jump away from the institution, from the politics, from the country's control. He doesn't want to be in control. So he just want to get rid of any kind of limitation. So Zhuangzi Wu Wei means freedom. But Lao's Wu Wei means non-selfish, to serve the country. And even there's still another Taoist philosopher, Li. He still, of course, will say Wu Wei, some kind of word, but his Wu Wei is for the purpose to practice his body, his sentient organs, his eye, ear, nose, his skin, because he want to practice his body with skill. So this book is a martial, about a body training, with then to get body skill, body ability to climb, to fly, to jump, to shoot, such kind of ability. So the Taoist philosophy should be divided into at least 3 different styles. So here, what you are asking is Lao's kind of Wu Wei, but it still has a different point between Lao's and Confucius political policy. For Confucius political policy, what he's concerned, the most important thing is the politician's virtue. So here, they always want the politicians to to behave yourself with benevolence, behave yourself with proper attitude toward others. So it's a kind of self-control to treat others good. This is a universal principle fit to all the politicians, no matter in what degree. You still remember we studied the book of change, the Yi Jing. Yi Jing told us that people are in different social level. All the 6 levels should have good heart with benevolence in his human nature. So he should control himself to treat others well. But here, Lao's philosophy, focusing on the high-level officers. You got 100 times money, 100 times political authority than the lower levels officers. So the point of your lead should be non-selfish, because you are always selfish, just working for yourself's benefit. So here, still a little different from Laozi, from Daojia, Laozi doing nothing, and Confucius control yourself. So you can make distinction of these 2 philosophies. Okay, thank you. Loudly.
I think about what that we should
Okay, Confucius asked people have a good heart, so you should do. You of course should not do the things selfish, but here Confucius say more things. If it's not proper, not to see, not to hear, not to speak, not to do, it means that it's wrong, incorrect. You should not steal people's money. You should not let the brothers fight with each other. Those kind of bad things, you should not do it. So you control yourself to behave yourself well. But in Lao's philosophy, his point is he got huge political authority. Always politicians with less money and political power, he will be selfish for the benefit of himself. Yeah, not have ambitions. Instead of not doing anything. Actually, he should do lots of things to serve his country, to serve his people. He's very busy. Each action should not be selfish. Okay. Aren, who you are? Let's find your question. Person, you still have question?
like in this is typically treats the mention of I'm spreading solid version of the function, but I still haven't heard what perfect virtue is.
What a perfect virtue is. If a person got perfect virtue, he has already been a sage, or at least a good gentleman. But how to give a definition of a perfect virtue? It is all the time you care others directly at first. You serve others at first because you care others. So this is the relationship between your daily life with others. But when you become the officer in the government, you have the strong most strongest responsibility for your country. So you will do everything good for your country, even sacrifice your life. So a good virtue means that the purpose of his life is not for himself. The purpose of his life is just for everybody, for the people, for his country, for the whole society. Because you always, all the time concern others. And he will, if some other suffer and he feel very pain, he must want to help him. And he always do the things with righteousness. So Mencius developed this kind of virtue in four things: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wise, smart, knowledge, to make distinguish with right or wrong. So you always do the right things instead of wrong things. But what is right is the benefit for all the people. What is wrong, benefit for yourself, then hurt others. It must be wrong. So a person with good virtue, should have benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wise. He's excellent. He's a sage. Everybody need him, but he didn't do anything for himself. So we should serve him too, because he served us. So what things he want to do, we should go to help him. We help such kind of person, will make our society, our good, our school, our party better than before. So he's the best leader of the society.
Question was just on the part in the past weeks.
Sorry, are you asking here? Number 4.
Yeah. So in the past weeks, we talked about discipline in eating, and I wanted to know if it's the same superior method and has the same quality in this. In that.
But Confucian talking about excellent person, and excellent person, he doesn't worry. Now we'll talk about I Ching later. He doesn't worry anything. So this sentence still been asked many times by students. So you wonder, if he doesn't worry, doesn't feel about anything, could this be understood as he is an excellent person? So you always ask this question. But from Confucius' point of view, why a person not worry and feel anything? This person has already a person with good virtue. With good virtue, if he follow his heart, doing good to the people, then of course he has nothing to worry and he has nothing to fear. If an officer, he betrayed his country, although people doesn't know it yet, but he, of course, very worried and very fear. But this gentleman with good virtue in his heart, he didn't do the things to betray his country, to hurt his people. So he, of course, no need to worry and no need to fear. But here, no need to worry. We should have another interpretation that though he doesn't worry about himself will suffer from any punishment, but he always, all the time, worry about people's life. This is what he worried all his life. But he will not worry. He doesn't have money. He doesn't have food. He doesn't need to worry about this. Okay, now you say, can we find this kind of person in the book of change, I Ching? Actually, I Ching is the book prepared for any gentleman, any a person with good virtue. Because if you want to handle your business, want to serve your country, you should play your role properly, correctly. Just follow the direction of the sixth level in 64 situations. Each situation, each event, each thing happen in this six position or being divided in these six levels. You should understand the situation, understand the skill to play your role well. So I Ching is just prepared for this good person with good virtue. Of course. Okay, let's take rest for 10 minutes, then come back. All right. Your question is a little ambiguous, but doesn't matter. I can explain the meaning, the point of this sentence. Of course, the relationship between family is the most important than the relationship between you and the people in the society. So family is the most important relationship in our life. But here in this sentence, what he's talking about the situation is this person, Sima Liu, actually he has blood, but his brother make a crime, perhaps been in the jail. So he's very sad, very worried, say that you have brother, but I don't have. Means that my brother cannot cooperate with me, cannot support me. So he's very much worried about it. Then Zixia, one of Confucius, this very famous disciple, is a scholarship. He spread Confucius' idea. He teach Confucius philosophy for quite a long time. So he's a very excellent scholar. So he tried to suggest Sima Liu with another way of understanding about the relationship of brother. So if you treat others well, then others will treat you well. Then you and others will get along very well. So this kind of relationship just as the same, just like brother. So at that moment, you still has friend support, and friend support perhaps as important or equal to the brother's support. So you don't need to worry about it. This is what he wants to say. So then, and about the attitude toward society, of course, we have to follow the social rule, obey the country's law, which make us could live in the society. So those rules, people should obey it. We should obey it, of course. But it doesn't influence the relationship between human beings. Okay. So the most important thing still come back is your good virtue. So here, you mean, what's the wen? And what is the zhi? Oh, sorry, this word. Ornament and substance. Actually, here substance, not very good translation. It means the nature, the feeling inside your human nature, and the behavior you play to others, you show outside. The ornament is the behavior. You get along with others, the way you get on with others. And the substance means that the feeling inside your heart. So, although you have a good heart to others, then still the way you get along with him should be proper. There's still a limitation. There's still a boundary. Not because you love some others, then you can control everything of him, every his business. Never just because you has good heart to do to him, then you can ignore his feelings. So if your behavior is not polite, he probably will reject and will be angry. So good heart is first, of course, but proper behavior is still important. So you should learn how to have a proper behavior toward others who you concern. You concern him is your substance inside feelings. You chose a kind of behavior to get along with him, to take care of him, to help him. This behavior should be properly, should be accepted by others. This is ornament. So now you understand. All right. Capital punishment. Your question for me is very interesting. Actually, I didn't think about it. But I, of course, understand that the capital punishments was being deleted, being stopped in some European country. Sometimes perhaps the Asian country will discuss this. Of course, it's a very high level moral sense to stop the punishment of death. But in the ancient China, anyway, in the ancient China, Confucius didn't discuss this one. But if there is a Buddhist country, or if it is not an event of a country, it just something happened very badly. But in a Buddhist disciples attitude standards, of course, he will not send this person to death, of course. But Confucian's philosophy, he didn't think about it. I must admit, they didn't think about it. So in Confucius philosophy, law is still important and still should be kept. But for them, the most important things is to educate people to become a good person. Then they will not make a crime, and they will not hurt others, and they will voluntarily to serve others, to serve the country. So the education is most important in Confucian's philosophy. But law is much more being emphasized in law schools philosophy. And in the law, still there's put to death, still. This is the first point I want to discuss, answer to you. The other part, the second point is the modern Asian culture has been influenced by many different directions, many different culture traditions, not only Confucius. But anyway, I come from Taiwan. in my understanding, there is still capital punishment in Taiwan, and here even more. In my understanding, even more. So Asian country still not to stop this kind of law. Okay. We, of course, could have a discussion about is it reasonable to put to death? We can have a discussion. This is a philosophical problem, but we don't have time, so we stop studying it. Debbie, you asked me difficult question. I must discuss it with you. So here, the first. Okay, I understand your question. And to answer your question, actually, I had already answered your question. It's explained. So computer schools still keep the law. Just they concern personality, virtue, much more. So Confucians are both politicians and teachers. So they want to teach more than want to punish. But they don't get rid of law. They still keep the law. And Confucius say that actually he's a very good judgment. And he can make very good mimic judgment. And to decide, to make just that people is crime or innocent. He can do this job very well. But he doesn't want to do it very well because he doesn't want people to argue with each other, to go to the court. It's just quite the same as the actual question, right? So we don't need to discuss. Okay. Yeah, in your opinion, you're not wrong. Your opinion, but just to understand about this sentence is not very correct. So I will explain the meaning of this sentence at first. Student ask Confucius how to be a good farm or how to make a good car, those kind of things, skill, industry, those kind of things. Confucius' reply is, I won't be better than a farmer in this situation. Actually, Confucius must be a good farmer, but he doesn't need to emphasize he's a good farmer. If you want to ask me about the farm business, you should ask a farmer. Why Confucius reply his students' question in this way? It's just because that Confucius want to educate his student to be an officer, not a worker, a farm. To be an officer should take much more responsibility of lots of people, all the people in the country, the society. This is even difficult, the most difficult job. Not so easy as be a worker, be a farmer. So you should be educated, and you should learn lots of historical and political knowledge. Then you could play your role very well. And you behave yourself moral. Then all the people will behave themselves more So the society will be very good. So that's the point. What I am teaching you. But you ask me how to drive a car, how to shoot, how to make a good coffee. You don't need to ask me these kind of things. So it doesn't mean that Confucius reject or deny the skill of make good coffee, make good food. No, it's not against technology. But he's just the point that an officer should have good attitude, good heart, and good belief to lead his people earn good life. This is the point of this sentence. Then you can ask me that, oh, only has good virtue, then you could be promised to be a good officer. But in history, it's not the truth. But Chinese history is not decided only by one reason, Confucius philosophy. Chinese history still being decided or being influenced by many, many other things. Because, for example, people's desire, politicians' ambitions, or the technology, or the army from the north, or from the sea. Chinese history should face lots of problems, and its direction being influenced by many, many things, not just Confucius philosophy. And Confucius philosophy could only influence those who think they are the disciple of Confucius. Only could influence those people who study the analysis of Confucius and believe and try to cultivate themselves, and then to educate his students. Of course, this kind of philosophy never stopped, and it lasts very long from ancient China till now today. But of course, not all the people who study the book will follow the direction. So in the Ming Dynasty, there's another very famous Confucian philosopher named is Wang Yangming. Perhaps you had heard it, his name. Wang Yangming emphasized that our knowledge, our knowing should be combined with our action. You should not just know it, but don't do it. So your knowing and your doing should be together. So even people study Confucius' book, and he perhaps not follow his direction, not to do it. So of course cannot promise the politics being good. Still bad politicians. But it's the sick of human beings. It's not the sick of the philosophy. The problem of human beings, not the problem of this fear. Okay, here. Anyway, you compare Confucius' philosophy with Christian. You compare Confucius' philosophy with Christian. You don't remember your question. You should read it.
Yeah, it's their problem.
Okay, in my experience, to discuss the different opinion in between Chinese philosophical school, or to discuss the contrast between two Chinese philosophical schools, always I understand one thing, that they are asking different questions. So there are different answers didn't contract with each other. But they thought the other school doesn't agree their opinion, and they don't agree the other school's opinion either. So they are always misunderstanding between different school, or even in the same school, different philosopher. They don't understand others' philosophy. They saw the other's opinion different from him. So they have contradictory. So he need to argue, he need to fight. So in my experience, if we could understand the meaning of the philosophy sentence, then we could resolve those theoretical conflicts. Here, now you are talking about Christian and Confucius. Yeah, if we take a look to them from outside, their behavior their culture is quite large and different. But of course, I want to, I like to discuss with you in this way that Christian emphasize rule made by God. Confucius believe the doctrine given by heaven. Still, they has the belief of heaven. But Chinese heaven or Confucius heaven is not a God with personality. It's just an universal law, a moral law. It still has will. The heaven still has will, but heaven is not a human being. It's not a God. This is the characteristic of Confucius philosophy. If we say Confucian philosophy is still a kind of religious philosophy, yes, we can say that, but their belief is not a God, but a universal moral principle. So Confucius disciples still think they should obey the heaven's will. Otherwise, they still will be punished. So this is a kind of different, but both Confucian and Christian has belief. Only the Christian's belief is a God and his son is Jesus in this style. Of course, Christian philosophy emphasizes rule, but in my understanding about Christian philosophy, I have lots of friends, they go to church every weekend. They still emphasize that they should have the faith in their mind. Not only they know in their knowledge, God will make a judge about their whole life. Even they has this kind of knowledge, perhaps they don't really believe it. Only they believe it and combined with this behavior, but this belief, they will correct their behavior. So the good virtue changed inside themselves based on the belief of the existence of God and the love from the God. So they're willing to change by themselves. In this sense, a Christian disciple still do their self-cultivation. Quite much the same like Confucius disciple. They should do their cultivation. So cultivation is the same, no matter it's Christian or Confucius. Okay, quite the same. You should cultivate yourself, then you should respond to the situations different, to the situations changed. When the outside environment is different, then you should take different way to treat. You say Confucius didn't follow the rule, it cannot change. I wonder, do you think that a Christian disciple must follow a rule and the rule should not be changed? Do you have this? No. To obey the rule of God, should you are willing to, even Christians believer, they make a crime too. So the fear about the punishment of God, when you compare it with the fear about the punishment from the government, God, G, government, the G, from the 2G, the God or government, actually, the feeling is quite much the same. So perhaps the fear about the punishment from the government are more direct. The punishment from the God maybe is very, very long, but it should last very long. So it is not the present. But I didn't mean to compare which is better or which is worse. I just want to say that even in Confucius tradition, there still has law there by human being instead of God. And even in the God beliefs country, they still has the law made by the king. So if we want to discuss which kind of moral force, moral pressure, which kind of moral pressure is more strong, yes, we can discuss that. But of course, I admit Confucius put more in themselves than in the outside God. Of course, they're different. I directly discuss it with you that Confucian, they don't put the punishment in an important position. They just put education in an important position. But they still believe that if you do good, you will be treated good. If you do bad, you will be treated bad. And this power still from heaven, though it is not a God with personality. So Confucius never concerned about the goals or the God. They are not afraid of God or God. And in this kind of philosophy, it turned to a new kind of personality. That is, Confucius disciples are not so much afraid of death. They don't afraid ghosts, God. So they don't afraid to death. They could accept it. So this is their characteristics. And here, now this question. What led him to have such unwavering faith in human morality? Okay, I answer it directly. Why he has strong faith to morality? It's by he himself's choice. This is what his concern and what he practiced, and therefore turned to his education, taught his student. So at first, Confucius' choice is. Then all his disciples understand his concern and accept his philosophy. Then, by themselves, directly to follow his direction. And such kind of influence from Confucius' time till today, the Chinese scholar who study analects, they will still choose to believe it and follow it, and to introduce his philosophy to their people. So they are all the believer of Confucius. So we should discuss what Confucius teaches us. Okay, it is now we are studying. What Confucius teaches us, this kind of doctrine is reasonable and it could be accepted. So Chinese scholars, Chinese students, they want to read it and accept it, and follow his direction, including me. I come from Taiwan. Here is mainland China, Shanghai. I grew up at some other place, but even at Taiwan, we believe Confucius philosophy. And today, here, I'm teaching Confucius philosophy. Okay. Because you asked me many questions, so I need to I need to answer it, but it take a little time, more time. Now we should go to. We need to. Zilu, the 13th chapter. So here. So who is, yeah, okay. Can you say about your,
I see that you.
okay, that story is come from his disciple. He's a high-level officer, and he discussed the political policy, political event with the other officers. Then when they finish it, he come back to his home. Actually, it's a very wonderful story, wonderful thing that Confucius lived with his students. They live together. They perhaps neighbors. So his student come back very late. Confucius a little, not very happy, a little angry. Why you come back so late? Student replied, because I have things to discuss. Confucius' response to him, have things? Really things? There really has things. I should know it, but I don't know it. So when Confucius replies, react his students answering in this attitude and in this tone, it means that what you discuss perhaps is illegal, is immoral. So it was not being known by all the people. It was not being discussed on public. So you need to have a small meeting and discuss it at night time. So all the political policy should be public discussing, should be discussed in the court, in the meeting, in the daytime, while you discuss in the late time. So Confucius perhaps he had already know what they are talking about. So he just react with his students' answer in this way. Okay, now understand? It doesn't matter 7 years, perhaps 6 years or 5 years or 8 years, it's okay, but not very short time. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not very short time. It's not 1 month, not 1 year, and even not 2 or 3 years. Right? We promote some others. We suggest some others to become officers. These kind of things. Of course, it happened the man who we has already know. So your question is, we should close to somebody, then we can know their ability. So it turned to you logically thinks that one person being promoted just because he has relationship with the officer, the high level officer, woman. But it is not the case. The point is here, Confucius is talking about the point is you should choose the excellent person to be officers. So it's your attitude, choice excellent person. But his student asked, if I don't know, Confucius said, you don't need to worry about it. Others will introduce some other excellent person to you. So the point is still to choose the people with good virtue. Because always politicians choose people who can bring benefit to the officer himself instead of his ability to take care of the people. So Confucius emphasized his virtue is the most important. So he's not talking about people should have a relationship with me. If he decide these things just by that, whether he has relationship with me, then his decision must be very selfish, just for his personal selfish benefit. Okay, dear my students, since we have more many students here, so I cannot be able to answer all your questions very effectively. I try to figure this problem. So next time you ask me a question, please get rid of all those paragraphs. I mean, not here. For example, here, you don't need it, okay? Just focusing on, but of course you should leave the Chinese and the translation, and perhaps sometimes highlight the key word what you are asking, then raise your question. Okay, this is the first thing I want to tell you. Thank you. Next week we still have Confucius, another 2 chapters. See you next week.